Hi there, Malcolm here for my 238th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you my review for Dogs of War by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I listened to this on Audible because it's free at the moment, and this is a story about a bioform, a genetically enhanced, created, I'm not quite sure, dog-man thing. I mean, it starts off being a dog, but with human characteristics put into it. So it walks like a human or like a dog, depending on what it feels like at the time. It very definitively avoids saying werewolf, and I think quite early on it did say not a werewolf, and had more of a pit bull type face. And this thing stands 7 or 8 feet tall with bulletproof skin and shoulder mounted guns, which it calls Big Dog. And it is one of 4 bioforms created by some James Bond villain type character who's waging his own personal war in Mexico. And the story basically follows Rex, as they call him, Rex's adventures. And the story is told from 3 main points of view. One is Rex, and Rex is the leader of his pack. Rex also isn't the brightest spark in the block and speaks in quite short sentences with quite simple words and very definitive. I do this, this is that, I go here, I rip this apart. You know, he's very much built for war, and he does things like that. And whenever he does something his master's told him to do, his feedback chip in his head tells him he's a good dog. And of course that's all he's interested in being. He wants to be a good dog. Of course, as the story unfolds, it turns out his master is a right bastard, and he has this existential issue about being a good dog, but because he's doing the things that his master has told him to do, that makes him a bad dog. So we get his story, we get a bit of a mystery story from a female voice who has a secret of her own, and she has a sort of outside narrative of what's going on. She's certainly telling the story from after all the events of Rex's adventures, but with her own unique spin on it. I can't really tell you more than that without spoilers. And then the third point of view is generally from one of the surrounding characters in Rex's life, either the scientist who built him and maintains him, or the lawyers that represent him after everything kicks off. By far for me, the more enjoyable sections were Rex's sections, which were the more common ones, and the larger sections, so yay. As he went through his activities and interacted with the rest of his pack, which consisted of Honey, an even bigger creature, a bear, wielding what was jokingly called an elephant gun, but far more powerful even than that. And Honey has secrets of her own. Dragon, who is more of a snake-lizard combination thing and is the squad's sniper, and is arguably more of the crew of the squad's looser cannon, as it were. He very much does his thing when he wants to and has questionable loyalties. And Bees, which is a multiform intelligence of mechanical bees. So no one bee is bees, but all the bees is bees with a capital B. And there's a lot of that going on in this story. Bees is bees, and then Bees does this with the bee and bees. And you think, well, you've got to try and hear the capital B being said in the narration. So I think reading Bees in page form would probably be a bit easier to know which Bees is with a capital, which Bees isn't, unless at the beginning of the sentence, in which case that'd be really confusing. But it's all context anyway. But they're a really interesting character as well. So yeah, so early in the story, they're sent off to do a thing, and signal is then broken from their master, and so they go unintentionally AWOL and have to make decisions on their own, which happen to be contrary to what master wanted, because they don't know that. They just did what they felt was natural and right. And Honey, the brains of the outfit, suggests that we do this and we do that, and then instead of killing all these people we just found, how about saying hello to them first? And as I said, it all goes to a head, and Rex ends up in a detention facility while the world decide what to do with these creatures and when to destroy them, effectively. Which brings us into the second part of the story, the legalities of what they are and the rights they may or may not have, and the fact that Rex does have thoughts, he does have feelings, he does have fears and wants and desires. He's more than just a weapon of war. He's more than just a dog. Do we as humans have the right to put him down? Now, these are constructed creatures as well, so they can't go off and breed. But as constructed creatures, do they have any rights? And so it deals with those legalities. And then we follow what happens with Rex afterwards, as well as Honey and the other bioforms. I really enjoyed this. The story at the beginning was pretty violent, and you're thinking, well, am I going to endure 9 hours of people being ripped apart and all the rest of it? But no, that just establishes how dangerous these creatures are. And I'm not saying we don't have violence further in the story, but at one point we're on a battlefield, next point, a little further on, we're in a courtroom arguing legalities. And so it does take some very interesting twists and turns and changes of direction. There were a few surprises. I did see most of them coming. The one about the female voice, I saw that a mile off. And the thing about bees, as well as the final confrontation with Master. But having predicted those didn't detract from my enjoyment of the story. And the ending was very bittersweet. There was a certain inevitability about it, but it did pull at the heartstrings. Yeah, absolutely booktastic. And there are 2 sequels so far. There's one following Honey, and Mars is involved somehow. And the third one follows Bees, which is coming out soon, I believe. So definitely interested to check those ones out. And as an Audible, I highly recommend it. The narrator for Rex particularly had a nice, deep, throaty voice. Really gave some credence to the size and ferocity of the creature. I think he did an excellent job. And the other 2 voices, one for the lady and one for everybody else, they were perfectly decent as well and really offset Rex's narrator nicely. So I highly recommend listening to the Audible. Like I say, it's free at the moment. At the moment being the 17th of May 2025. So I highly recommend going and checking that out. So there you go. Have you read any Adrian Tarkovsky? What's your favourite one by him? Did you enjoy Dogs of War if you've read that? But as usual, if nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe and other YouTubey things if you want. And until next time, see you later.